It is time for episode 14 of the AngelsWin Podcast. I'm Victor Rojas, Geoff Stoddart, and let me see. His name is Chuck Richter, and he is the owner, editor-in-chief, founder. What else can we put on there of AngelsWin.com? We're so glad you could join us. Can I add anything on there? Oh, shill. That's shill.
Head of sales.
Yeah, head of sales for himself. Yeah.
You had to go there.
What bourbon are you drinking this week, Chuck?
Well, I just polished off
you're asking.
Gentleman Jack. So
Gentleman Jack.
In the refrigerator, which I recommend.
Nice. Yeah, if this is your first time joining us, what the hell's wrong with you, and where have you been? That's first and foremost. Secondly, we talk about Angel stuff here. Typically, we go back in time. We can look ahead and forward, and mix in a bunch of stuff. We drink while we're at it. Typical. Hey, look, Geoff, go Lopes.
Like it. Lopes
go
up.
Lopes. Yep.
Lopes
I got
up.
vodka. Lopes up. Vodka and my Powerade Zero, my purple Powerade Zero that matches my cup.
Very nice.
What are you drinking, Geoff?
I am. I'm trying to pull us into the Barstool universe. So I'm hoping Portnoy and Big Cat and Aaron are having a little high noon.
Oh, there you go.
I will say this, just because you brought up Barstool.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever tried their pizza?
Yes.
It's pretty damn good.
It's not bad for a frozen pizza.
For a frozen pizza, it's pretty good. I think I have a couple in the fridge or in the freezer myself. So I enjoy it. So maybe that pulls us in a little bit.
There you
ties
go.
us into, as opposed
Stella
to just getting
Blue
free stuff for
coffee is
ourselves.
nice. Yeah.
I'm trying to build it for everyone. Chuck.
Yeah.
But anyway, I digress. If it sounds like we're giving Chuck a bunch of shit, it's because we are. And because every week he seems to have something new that he's going to pitch. So stay tuned. At the end of the show, we'll see what today's unveiling looooks like.
It's from Texas.
Oh,
I was joking, and there you go. You went ahead and hit it out of the ballpark. I was actually just screwing around with you. Unbelievable. Some things never cease to amaze me. Well, I'm glad you're joining us. If you're with us, if you found us on iTunes or Spotify, iHeart, or any of the other ones, we certainly greatly appreciate you listening, especially through the first 13 episodes. This is about 10 days since we last recorded because of the All-Star break. We had some time off and schedules just didn't match up. So we're kind of back to the every Sunday recording thing. So we really appreciate it. We just got on the air right after the Angels picked up the victory against the Toronto Blue Jays this afternoon, salvaging the finale of that 3-game series north of the border. And the road trip continues for the Angels. They'll start a 3-game series against the unbelievably good Atlanta Braves beginning tomorrow night in Atlanta. But let's go back in time a little bit. Really, all you have to do is kind of go back to Wednesday, because it was the start of the 3-game series against the Detroit Tigers. Or Tuesday was the start of the 3-game series against the Detroit Tigers, right? Tuesday? Yeah, Tuesday, because there was a Monday off day. And there was a rain out, and you ended up having a doubleheader that the Angels ended up sweeping the Tigers. Okay, I mean, that's awesome because they needed to do that. They needed to take care of, as we've said for 13 episodes, got to take care of business at hand. Bad teams, you got to take 2 or 3, if not sweep them. You're in that mode right now where you need to sweep to take big grounds. And then going into the weekend, because you've got the Blue Jays are in that number 3 wild card spot, and try to make up ground. You lost ground for the first 2 games, and you pick up the victory on Sunday, and now the Angels find themselves 4 back of that 3rd wild card spot. And keep in mind, there are 2 teams immediately ahead of the Angels, and that is the Yankees and the Red Sox. And right behind you, by the way, you've got the Seattle Mariners and Cleveland Guardians. So that's where we're at as far as the wild card picture. The standings in the West, a little bit different, 6 back or 5.5 back now, I guess, with the victory, depending on what the Rangers do against the Padres. They've lost the first 2 against the Padres. And so there's still some things to play out as far as the standings and maybe the trade deadline or whatever. But obviously the news of last week was the announcement on Wednesday that the Angels were not going to trade Shohei Ohtani, which the way I looked at it, I think I may have texted you guys this, is I thought the timing was really odd. I still think the timing was really odd to do that. There was no reason you needed to do that whatsoever. And people who wanted to talk on Twitter about maybe it takes pressure off these players, please stop. I mean, that's just nonsense. But it was immediately followed by the announcement. I was already asleep because I'm on the East Coast, of the Lucas Giolito trade to the Chicago White Sox, and of course Lopez, the reliever as well. So I'll open it up to you guys in that regard of, what did you think of the announcement, timing of it? Clearly, that deal with the White Sox was already in place.
Yeah.
So it's almost as if, the whole PR thing of like, no, we're keeping Shohei and look what we're doing. We're charging ahead and making the move. I'm happy that they made the move. They needed to address the starting pitching side of things. They picked up a reliever as well, which is also always very good, especially Lopez, who's got a good arm. But I'll open it just like that. Just your guys' sense on the announcement, subsequent trade on that Wednesday.
It felt very timed and very purposeful to me, in a good way, I think. I don't know that anybody was terribly shocked by the announcement that they were keeping Shohei. We've been talking about that, quite a bit. The do they or don't they? But really everything that I feel like I've been hearing anyway, coming from the team, coming from Artie, was they weren't going to do it. There was a lot of talk in the media about, the Angels are entertaining offers, or they're talking to people. And for me, I felt like that was a lot of wishful journalism, as opposed to actually getting insights that the Angels were leaking, were taking offers. And maybe they were. I could be very wrong, but it felt very wishful to me on the part of a lot of insiders that were out there. And then, so for the announcement to be followed up quickly by the announcement of the deal that they did, it all felt very timed, very purposeful. Some of the players talked about the attitude in the locker room the next day of being, kind of a shot in the arm, a bit of jubilance that, hey, we're going for it. We're making a move. We're not sellers. We're buyers. I don't know that I would poo-poo that. I think that if I was a player on the team, I would feel that way. I would feel good that my owner and my GM and that us as an organization, that we were making the moves to say, gentlemen, we're making a run. We're all in. Let's do this. But I don't know, Chuck. Am I wrong in that?
No, I felt the same way when the announcement came out. But to Victor's point, it also was odd because you still had this Toronto Blue Jays series coming up, which was huge, right? And you kind of felt like the Angels were going to take at least 2 out of 3 of the Tigers. They swept them, which was great. I get the shot in the arm and then the trade. Friday could have gone so much better. I mean, Giolito did his job on the mound. Ohtani opened the game with a home run, and the rest of the team just fell apart. I mean, the Angels had 2 opportunities with the bases loaded and just came up empty. And then the same thing happened the following day, and they came up empty. And it's just, it's mind-boggling that you can't even just put the ball in play. You can't even just work a good at bat to just get the ball into the air, into the outfield. We talked about this, Victor. I want to go back several weeks early in our podcast, how I think it was just when it was just you and I on, and you were talking about a terrible approach at the plate for some of these guys. They're just going up there just hacking with no purpose. And, not knowing what's going on in the game and like move the runner. I mean, and I'm not even talking a bunt. I'm talking about hitting it to the right side. getting the ball in the air, just putting the ball in play. And a lot of these guys are just coming up whiffing, and that's not gonna move. That's not gonna get any movement in terms of production. You know, you put the ball in play, good things happen. I mean, you can get an error on the defense. You're putting pressure on the defense, but you know, the Angels have just, I don't know. I mean, this past 3 days have just been infuriating, and even today, until, you know, the 10th inning where, you know, Hunter Renfroe finally came through, you know, with a runner in scoring position, you know, in the 10th inning, which was great, you know, but it took until that point to finally get something right. And I don't know, back to Ohtani, I think, and I'm with you, Jeff, that it was a shot in the arm, but it didn't carry forward. You know, I mean, you know, they what they were doing against the Detroit Tigers, not the Toronto Blue Jays. The Toronto Blue Jays are a much, much better team, you know, so.
To your point, because I know the situational hitting, especially with men in scoring position, reared its ugly head this weekend. It's been there. Let's be honest now.
It's been there for a while.
It's been there the entire season.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. The Angels going into play today, 243 batting average with men in scoring position. That's 25th in Major League Baseball. With men in scoring position, 2 outs, it's 224. That's 24th in Major League Baseball. So, and then I said, well, let me take a look at what the Blue Jays have done this year in similar situations from a pitching staff perspective, right? Because you wonder, like, if they were crappy, you're like, oh, okay, now there's a problem on the offensive side. But the Toronto Blue Jays, second best batting average against with men in scoring position at 225. They are best in Major League Baseball, scoring position and 2 outs. They allow 190 batting average against. So if you take a look at what and that's why as fans, I'm a realist, right? Like my eyes tell me things when I watch the games. And then if there's something I question or I'm not sure of, I'll look at the numbers and say, okay, what's not adding up for me? And fans can get very excited about a sweep of the Detroit Tigers, as they should, because you need the W's. Wins still do matter, right?
Right.
Even though for pitchers apparently they don't, but wins do matter as a team. Otherwise, you're not going to go very far. Wins matter, and you pick those 3 up in Detroit. But the Detroit Tigers pitching staff is slightly different than that of the Toronto Blue Jays, and slightly different than that of several Major League teams. Sure. It's not going to get any easier going into Atlanta. Number one, it's a very good team. Number 2, it's a very good pitching staff. I think they get Morton and Strider to start. I forget who the third starter is on Wednesday. And on those points right there, the Braves are 8th in pitching staff against batting average against with men in scoring position. So it's not going to get any easier. So you do have to do the little things right. The Angels in the 10th inning on Sunday with the ghost runner, whatever you want to call him at second base, played small ball. They bunted the runner over to third base in hopes of trying to get a sacrifice fly and score a run and snap the tie and take the lead. Well, Renfroe goes deep. Great. They give up a run in the bottom of the 10th. They end up picking up the win 3-2. Little things like that matter, especially against teams that are very good. And when you've had those issues all season long, you've got to do whatever it takes to manufacture runs. That situational awareness, like you said, man at second, nobody out. I'm trying to hit a ball to the right side, at least to move the runner over. You're not giving your at bat away. As a hitter, you're trying to pick up the RBI, right? But at worst case scenario, I want to make sure I get a guy at third with less than 2 outs in hopes of a fly ball gets him in. At the very least, you get 1 run out of it, right? And start there and try to build from there. But this isn't just this weekend. Oh my God, they're 0 for 25 with men in scoring position. Well, no shit. They've been really bad with men in scoring position all season long.
Right.
They really have. They've been able to manufacture runs, but as a collective whole on the season, That's what the team has been doing. That and some shoddy defense are the two things I talked to. They asked me, I did a podcast on Friday before the game one, the show up in Toronto. What are the two things we should look out for the Angels? The Achilles heel for the Angels that's kind of been nagging them all season long. Defense, mistakes, mental mistakes, and situational hitting. And there you go.
They can't hit, they can't field. Other than that, they're really
Yeah, I mean, and I didn't mean that negatively, but those are the two things. And the pitching's been kind of inconsistent. Everyone was talking about July and the team's playing better, but the July pitching, as we pointed out last episode, has been kind of starters are a little bit better. The bullpens had their scuffles. It's just been kind of that team that we've been riding the wave on all season long. But from a situational hitting perspective, I mean, the numbers don't lie. I mean, they kind of laid out. But when you're facing a really good team, you better be on your game. Otherwise, you're not going to get much out of it.
Right. I feel like the artificial jubilance that came out of the Tiger series probably had more to do with the two series that preceded it. So you swept the Yankees, and that's a team you're chasing right now. They're the team that's immediately ahead of you in the wild
and have
cards.
the tiebreaker now, right?
Right.
Have that tiebreaker. You lost the tiebreaker against
and the
Toronto.
Red Sox.
And the Red Sox. But the one against Toronto, you lost that one. Okay.
Yeah. You took 2 of 3 from Pittsburgh. Again, not a great team, but you just swept the Yankees. You take 2 of 3 from Pittsburgh. You're feeling good. And then you carry that over and you sweep the Tigers. Again, they're not the Atlanta Braves, but they're also not the Oakland A's. They're an average team. And you're doing it on the road as well. And you're doing it on the road on a day where you have to, make up a doubleheader on Thursday because Wednesday gets rained out. Or no, I'm sorry. So that's no small thing. I mean, are they a great team? No. Should you beat them? Yes. But I think that what felt good about that is those two series that preceded it. So, we roll into Canada with our chest pumped out, Ohtani staying. We got these 2 new pitchers and feeling just ready to go. I think there may have been some artificial energy there and that's one of the things that I appreciate about you on this podcast, Victor, is that you are that realist. I tend to be a little more, live and die with every pitch in every game and every series and just, very much fandom. I think Chuck is really into, the numbers and stats and understanding those things. I guess we all bring a little bit, but so I appreciate your realism because you very often bring me down to earth of what's actually, what we should be looking at.
Can I just say one thing too, that and we all know this, but the presence of Zach Neto on the field and in the lineup isn't just perceived as something that, oh my gosh, they're in a better position to win. The numbers actually speak to it. The Angels in all the games that he's started are 35-25. In the last 17 starts in which Neto has started, they are freaking 13-4. Okay. He re-energizes this team. His defense, we saw so many plays in this past series against the Tigers that are like mind blown, right? I mean, but I don't know if you've seen his reaction getting up. He was still in pain.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell that he's still nursing that back injury.
Yeah.
But the guy is just a silent leader with his glove and at the plate. And, obviously, Victor, I mean, he's still got some maturing to do at the plate, right? Yeah. And that will come, but he's such a young player. We are really fortunate as Angels fans to have him on this team, but gosh, we need to get him back. And I know that some fans blasted us about Brandon Drury, but we really need Brandon Drury back in this lineup now with Taylor Ward out. And Taylor Ward may be out for a long time.
Yeah.
He has multiple facial fractures. So the good news is that it didn't fracture any of the bones around his eye. So maybe he comes back in September. But Kevin Padlow isn't really a guy that's going to, we need Drury back. We need Neto and Drury back, period.
Yeah, Neto for sure. And we've talked about Zach and what he brings to the table from an energy perspective and the like. I think, look, I mean, the guy was in college 14 months ago, 15 months ago, right?
It's crazy to think of it.
And at a high level, I mean, Campbell, obviously his baseball program is high level baseball, but there's certain guys that just have that baseball IQ, baseball instincts that can play. They don't need the traditional, 400 minor league at bats before they're ready. He's being force fed at the major league level. And I think that will ultimately, because he is a mentally strong individual, I don't know him, but it seems that way. Whatever negative happens to him at the major league level, it's not going to impact him long term. Whereas someone who is not as mentally strong and or is worried about the failures that are going to happen at a high level and under the microscope may wilt a little bit. And we could talk about a number of highly touted prospects that have come through the Angel system over the years that it just didn't happen for them. The expectation was so great they could never live up to it, and it just never happened. I don't foresee that happening with Zach Neto from an up here standpoint, from a cranium standpoint. So I think that's good, and I think his skills are only going to continue to get better. And I brought up that Dustin Pedroia comp, that energy, that high energy,
right?
Not raw type. It's just like it's the only way he knows how to play the game.
He's a gamer.
Yeah, those are the guys that you want to follow. Those are those because it's not fake. He's not turning it on at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and then going for the game. It's like that's just him. And those are the guys that I love and I gravitate. So I agree with you. I think it's important to have him in there. Even if he hits 250, who cares? There's an impact to the lineup. There's an impact on the defensive side. And I think people are starting to realize that for sure. And hopefully he gets that back situation taken care of. And because that's one of those things that can obviously just on a dive or go to a backhand, those little tweaks, man, all it can do is just continue to aggravate it. So hopefully he gets better and is able to sustain a healthiness about him for the rest of the season. I do want to ask a little bit about, and we don't have to touch on the trade deadline. It doesn't happen until August 31st. That's Monday at midnight or whenever the timeline is. As far as why the Angels made that decision, I mean, it is what it is. I would imagine that the Angels may still be looking to add. It depends. Seems like more teams are starting to pull back a little bit. Saw that Cody Bellinger, the Cubs, because of the way they've played and because they're in the National League Central, they still have some shot, and so they're allegedly pull Cody Bellinger back. The Rangers got a little bit better by adding Max Scherzer, although they lost Nathan Eovaldi to the injured list, who's got a little forearm strain, and Jonah Heim, their catcher. That may be all-star catcher, by the way. That one could be impactful to them throughout the rest of the season. Like he's going to take 2 weeks off to rest the wrist. And if it's something that can't be taken care of with, rest and relaxation, he might have to have surgery. He might be done for the season. That being said, the Rangers are still a pretty good team. There's no doubt about that. Yeah. And Houston obviously playing much better. They're playing the Rays this weekend, have split the series going into Sunday. So I'm talking about a bunch of little different things because that's just the time of year that we're in, right? We're in that mode. I thought I saw somewhere like, well, how can the Rangers acquire Max Scherzer, and why didn't the Angels go out and get Max Scherzer or try to get a pitcher like that? Well, look, Billy Epler was fired by the Angels. I don't think that Billy Epler is going to be jumping on the phone to call the Angels and say, hey, would you guys like to have Max Scherzer? I just don't think that that's the one thing that Billy was thinking about. So that's my 2 cents on that. And obviously they felt that Acuna, whom I saw a little bit of, was enough for Scherzer to be traded to Texas for. So that's the trade deadline. There's still things that could happen, materialize, especially from an arms perspective. Chuck, I'll ask you just in general before we move on a little bit, because there's a couple other things I want to talk about as far as Ohtani that happened this weekend is where do you think teams are, whether you're a buyer or a seller? Even Seattle's not sure where they're at, what they're going to do. Just your overall thought process on the MLB trade deadline right now.
Yeah, I was just looking, Victor, and there's not many teams that the Angels are a good match with to bring in an outfielder, right? Cody Bellinger has been pulled off the market. I mean, the Cubs are in a better position for the wild card than the Angels are right now. They're 3 games out. So, you look at the Pirates, Brian Reynolds, maybe he just signed a contract with the Pirates. It's a fairly good contract. So the Angels would have to just back up the truck of prospects. Do you want to do that for a guy that's got 12 home runs hitting 256? Probably not.
No.
They're in a tough spot, the Angels. I mean, I'm just looking, and then maybe the Mets, Brandon Nimmo. But to your point, is Epler going to deal with the Angels? Probably not.
He might just hold you up for it.
Right.
Keenan Middleton apparently is available from the Chicago White Sox. Who's having
I don't think Angel fans want his ass back.
Yeah, that was a burnt bridge for sure.
Yeah, for sure. You look at the Cardinals. The Cardinals got some outfielders, but they're young guys, and when you got young, cost-controlled outfielders, it's going to cost you more. So that's not going to work. So the outfield market is really tough right now. And so for the Angels, they're going to have to go with Moniak and Renfroe. And my God, I mean, do you want to throw Cabbage out there? I mean, he looked terrible today on a couple at bats. I mean, really? And so
big league pitching is a little bit different than AAA pitching.
Well, and especially when you factor in that his strikeout rate in AAA was through the roof, right? Yeah. So that's not an option. They're already talking about maybe when Drury gets back, putting Rengifo. Thankfully, Rengifo has had a little bit of a resurgence, and
since he got yanked out of a game.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and maybe that's what he needed. Yeah. So the talent's always been there for Rengifo, but is he a catalyst? I don't know. He's not what Taylor Ward's been providing for the last month. I mean, he's been great. So I don't know. I've been looking at the scenarios for the Angels, and they've already been in talks with the Nationals about Candelario for third base, but then what are you doing?
Backup infield,
right? Exactly. I mean, the guy is mid, right? I mean, he's better than Escobar.
But
he's better than Escobar.
What does that say about Moustakas and Escobar if you're allegedly? Remember, these are all reports.
Mm-hmm.
Allegedly targeting Jeimer Candelario.
Right.
Now I still think Moustakas brings a little bit more to the table from the veteran perspective and the stand-up guy in the clubhouse. I get that. I was thinking about that, by the way, the other day, because I think somebody wrote about it, and I don't think we touched on it the last time when the Angels made that trade. Remember, Moustakas was in Kansas City when – at one point in the season, if I remember correctly, Ned Yost was going to get fired. That's how bad the Royals were. I mean, they had a pretty good nucleus of players, and Ned Yost was about to get fired, and all of a sudden things changed around. But the reason I bring that up is because there's that instance where the Royals acquired Raul Ibanez. Raul was clearly on the back nine of his career.
Oh, yeah.
If I remember correctly, there was a story that goes that he basically is the guy that stood in the middle of that clubhouse and said, it's time to get it going. There's enough talent here to get it going. Moustakas was part of that clubhouse. And obviously those 2 years that the Royals had were magical, and before it obviously got blown up and free agency hit and the like. But that's part of the reason why I thought that Moustakas would be kind of that guy, because he had lived it, while he was a full-time player with a veteran coming in. He understands it, gets it. And I think he has provided that leadership, if you will.
Yeah.
Whether it was needed or not, we know that Mike's never been that guy to be that vocal that we have seen. Like, nobody's pulled the curtain back for everybody for us to see that. So Mike maybe perhaps leads in a number of different ways, as opposed to that guy's going to stand in the middle of the clubhouse and call somebody out or point fingers and the like. But yeah, I think that's why I think Moustakas. But back to your point, it's like Jeimer Candelario. I mean, really, that's what we're getting geeked up about.
So hey, Victor, I've been scanning all day, and then a light just went on, and I thought about the Colorado Rockies for a second. The guy that was picked right before Mike Trout, Randal Grichuk, he's hitting .311, 8 home runs, 230 at bats for the Rockies. I think that would be an easy get to replace Taylor Ward in the interim for the Angels. I think that would be a great trade for the Angels. He's got pop.
Who do you see the Angels giving up for that?
Well, he's not a long-term guy for the Rockies, Jeff.
Right.
All these other teams that are out of contention, they're rebuilding. They're not going to give up any. In all those teams that are not in contention, they got younger guys in the outfield. They're not going to give them up.
Sure.
Randal Grichuk is the only one of the teams that's not going to do a thing this year that could be available, that I think could help the Angels.
Mm-hmm.
Let's reunite him with Mike Trout.
Not bad. I like it. He's only making his salary this year is 9.3.
Yeah,
and he's a rental. He's a free agent.
He's a rental.
So
you're not going to give up much to get him, Jeff. To your point.
No, I get it. I guess I would. Interesting from a Colorado perspective. You have the guys that you have the banners out in front of the stadium, the guys that are always talked about as being the, come on out this weekend and see the Rockies play the Mets and, your favorite players, and they kind of go through the top 2 or 3. He's one of those guys for the Rockies right now. That's how bad they are.
Oh,
right?
Geez.
I mean, he's one
they're still drawing fans, though.
Oh my God! It's the greatest fan base in sports.
Yeah.
Colorado fans will go watch anything. They love sports.
Yeah.
They'll complain about it and everything, but they always, one of the big things that they talk about out here is that you fans are part of the problem. You're why this team is never going to get better, because you keep filling this stadium.
Well, it's also the general manager's dog shit too.
Right.
Yeah. They are 12th in baseball this year in average attendance.
Mm-hmm.
32,660, just behind who?
Really? They're 12th?
32, behind the Angels.
Always filled.
Right behind the Angels. And you know what? I thought, well, maybe it's an offshoot or something like that. So I went back to 2022. They were 9th last year, 32,467. So it seems like, they've been, it caught me off guard too. It really did. Because I was doing this,
Wow.
I was looking at, how Major League Baseball keeps putting out all these things about the attendance and, oh my God, the 9% increase here. And it seems like the narrative has been, every time they put something like that out, it is like, well, yeah, definitely it's the speed up rules, and that's why people are coming to the games. And I'm thinking, I can't imagine it's, unless you have surveyed everybody that's come through the turnstile and you've definitively been able to determine that, it's difficult to just sit there and go, oh, the attendance is X because of these changes to the rules. So this morning I was just doing homework. I'm like, wouldn't the attendance spike have something to do with the outlier teams playing better than ever expected? Baltimore, Cincinnati, and the like. And sure enough, that's why I ended up doing this thing this morning. Hold on one second. I did. So, since you brought this up, that's the only reason I knew about the whole Colorado thing. Hold on. Let me get my notes.
While you're looking for that,
I got it. Go ahead.
Okay, go.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, on Friday, Bill, I think is it Shankin from the LA Times?
Shankin.
He had a tweet that said, "Given what the fans get for their money, the Rockies never have won a division championship in their 31 seasons. You could argue this is baseball's best fan base." And he was reacting to the fact that they had 37,000 in the ballpark on Friday to see the A's play the Rockies.
Yeah.
Two of the worst teams in baseball. And they had 37,000 people there.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy. So
wow.
let me finish this up because we'll move on to something else here. But just on the whole attendance thing, right? So the outlier team, Cincinnati. Okay. Cincinnati last year was averaged 17,447. This year they're averaging 23,751 because they're good. Hey, you play good baseball, people come out. How about that? Magical.
Shocking.
Pittsburgh last year, 15,524. They were pretty decent earlier this year. People were pretty excited about them. They're averaging 20,814. Okay. Arizona, the sleeper pick that I should have bet on back in the day. Because
they're slipping though.
Yeah, they are. But they were 19,817 last year. This year they're 22,949. Texas, 24,831 last year. They're averaging 30,675. The biggest jump this year. Who would you think the biggest jump this year is? From last year's average attendance to this year's average attendance. And it's a cumulative. Last year had obviously the 81 games plus through what they've done now.
Come on, spit it out.
Toronto, by the way, 32,760 to 36,933 because they're a better team, right?
Right.
Philadelphia Phillies with the biggest jump that I saw of the teams from 28,459. They're averaging 39,400 this year.
Wow.
Imagine that. Why? Because they won.
Because they won last year.
Right. Well, that's my point is like you can't just fall in love with this narrative of like, the game's quicker. And that's great. I think that's awesome. I'm glad everything's quicker and moving up. But that's not why the attendance is up. Attendance is up because everyone, the Yankees, Dodgers, Mets, Angels, everyone's par for the course. They're doing the exact same thing, maybe incrementally better. The Angels are up a little bit, by the way, but of course that's the Ohtani factor because this is possibly his last year in Southern California. But then you've got all these teams that nobody was planning anything for, playing out of their ass. And all of a sudden it's summer and it's like, hey, they're pretty good. Let's go watch them. Well, that's why. I mean, yeah, I'm sure there's maybe some new fans that are sitting there going, hey, let's go spend the money here because we'll be out of there in 2.5 hours. I highly doubt that that's what's factoring into the decision-making process other than they're good. Let's go watch these good players play good baseball. So that's you brought up Colorado and see the randomness behind the podcast. That's why we do these things.
I like the rabbit trails.
You might actually learn something here. All right, real quick. Let's see. We got a little bit left here. Ohtani, Shohei, obviously, he's a pretty good player. Two things that I want to bring up on this. Why in God's name was he playing both ends of a doubleheader in Detroit, let alone letting him go out there? It was a 5-0 lead to finish a one-hitter. Who gives a shit? I mean, this is the guy you should be treating with kid gloves. And it's the Detroit Tigers, for Pete's sake. If you can't close out that game, you're awful. And then he playing the second part of that doubleheader, and he ended up coming out of the game because of cramps. Friday night in Toronto, last at-bat has to come out because of cramps. Your take on that first, because I had an issue with it, because I think it's just stupid to continuously run him out there. I know you have to. He's your guy, but you've got to be careful with him. Otherwise, you're going to run him into the ground before you even get a chance to get into September.
So my take on that, let me go first.
Okay, you go first.
My take on that, Victor, is that he's the only guy in that lineup, right? And
You're
so
up 5-0 in game one. You've won game one of
okay. To your point for the complete game, he wanted that. He told Nevin that he wanted that.
Then
because
sit
it's
him for game two. Then sit him
It's
for
a
game
milestone.
two. I get it. Cool.
For game two, I mean, you still got to win. I mean, the series is already won at that point, but Ohtani doesn't want to come out. He just not. Okay. He doesn't want to come out.
So when he breaks down, if he breaks down, we can come back to this episode and I'll point it out to you.
You can point it out to me, and you can blame me.
Mark this down at mile marker 40:57 on episode 14.
So I think what's instructive here is something that Chuck just touched on. Are the Angels as a team, as an organization, doing any and everything that they can to communicate and project to him, you get to make the call. If you want to stay in the game, we're going to let you stay in the game.
I think
if
they are.
You tell us you need to come out, we're not going to put our thumb on the scale. We're not going to protect you from yourself, even if we feel that we should. You have complete control here.
But, and you're right, Victor. It is stupid.
It is, but is that what's happening?
Well, it's also because of Mike Trout is out, right? Brandon Drury's out. Gio Urshela's out.
You won game one in Detroit. You get a complete game shutout in game two in Detroit, and you had the off day between because of the rain out. You're going into Toronto. Why do you need to play him in game three in Detroit? If you need to use him, you have him off the bench.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe Nevin was thinking they had the off day. I know. Maybe Nevin was thinking they had the off day on Monday. They got the off day by the postponement on Tuesday. Or not Tuesday, but Wednesday. And so they thought, okay, he had enough rest.
Right,
but
well, that's my 2 cents.
Don't you think this has less to do with this season and more to do with putting together a, whatever you want to call it, a resume for why you should re-sign with us? Is that you get to dictate your terms here. You're home.
He has for 5.5 years, for Christ's sake.
He has. And
I take that back. The first couple of years, it was, Scioscia wouldn't let him do it. Right? There were limitations. They put the governors on him, right? You couldn't do everything. You couldn't hit and pitch in the same game, if I remember correctly.
Right.
Yeah.
So there were some limitations early on, but I mean, come on, the last 3 years, I mean, he's been full bore. It's like whatever you want to do. So I don't think one weekend series or a series prior to a weekend is going to make a difference. Look, if Shohei doesn't already know whether or not he likes Southern California, the Angels are screwed. Seriously. Nothing's going to happen in the last 2 months of the season. All of a sudden, I'm like, hey, light bulb goes off. I want to stay here. These guys are unbelievable. No, for Pete's sake, he knows what's going on. I mean, the guy's not dumb. He realizes it. Let's be honest. Let's not fool ourselves. I think it was stupid that he played both ends of the doubleheader. I think it was unnecessary.
I don't disagree with you.
It's unnecessary.
I am merely putting out potential reasons why this is happening. Not that I agree with them and why they're being done. I'm trying to come up with what would make sense for doing something that makes no sense, because they should have pulled him out.
But Victor, you said you had 2 points on Ohtani. What's the second one?
The second one was this whole thing about what have I been saying all season long on Shohei Ohtani? What's the one thing I've been saying?
Can I tell you before you do it?
What? Go ahead.
Throw the four-seam fastball.
No. Offensively. What have I been saying about Shohei Ohtani?
Walk him.
Yes.
Walk him.
Yes.
Don't pitch to him.
Why are teams pitching to him?
They're not anymore.
And then was it Friday night? Freaking Kevin Gausman. That was a 93 mile per hour fastball that was center cut. Holy cow. I mean, it had Salt Bay. Salt Bay was sprinkling the salt all over that fastball right up. I mean, it was unbelievable. And then Matt Chapman goes off in the dugout and it gets caught on camera. It's like, why are we pitching to him? Nobody. listen, and I know people
That
took
was
offense to that.
disrespectful,
There's
though.
no, I don't think that's disrespectful. Well, guys talk shit all the time. If that's disrespectful to you, you good luck in the clubhouse. Seriously.
Well, I'm saying to your boss.
No, I don't think so. Some people were talking about that. You'd never talk that way to his college coach. Yeah, because he was in college, for Christ's sake. He's Matt Chapman. He's earned the right, and it wasn't disrespectful. It's an honest question that I've been asking on a freaking podcast. Why are you pitching to him? People took offense. Angel fans, it seemed like, took offense to the fact that he said, "Well, there's nobody else in that lineup that can hit." That's just a blanket statement. It doesn't literally mean that nobody else can hit that lineup. But it's if there's anybody in that lineup that you don't want to beat you, 1 through 9. God, who is that guy? Freaking Shohei Ohtani.
Right.
That's the guy you don't want to pitch to. It's common sense.
Angel fans, here's the problem with all of you getting upset that he disrespected the other 8 guys in your starting lineup, saying that this is the only guy that can hit, is the Angels spent the next 2.5 games proving that he was right.
Yeah.
0 for 25 with runners in scoring position.
Yeah.
1 for 26 with runners in scoring position. And it was in the 10th inning of the 3rd game of the series that you got that one hit. He said something, it made you mad, but he was right.
Yeah, facts suck sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's not literal. Guys just say
Victor,
that kind of stuff all the time. Go ahead.
Right.
Sorry.
And Victor, when I say disrespectful, I mean something like that I think should be taken off camera, like in the clubhouse behind doors. That's what I mean by that. I don't think it should be displayed because he's got to know that cameras are everywhere.
Yeah, but it wasn't. I don't know, and maybe it's because I don't know. My background, I don't know what it is, but it's not as if he was sitting there going, "What are you doing?" It's basically he's asking the same question the other 25 guys, 24 because Gosman was on the mound. All 24 guys on the roster started going, "What the fuck? What are we doing? Why are we pitching to him?" Seriously, I mean, center cut first pitch. I mean, if anything, just breaking balls outside. If he flips a single or a double to left center field, whatever. But
it could be that it was the first. It could be that it was the first inning. I mean,
I don't care. I couldn't care less. I really couldn't. Yeah. I've said this for how many months now? It's like, why are teams, and even when Trouty was in the lineup, the struggles that he was having, it's like, you got to pick your poison. I'm going to pick the lesser of two evil. I'm going to take my chances. Mike's struggling. Shohei's he's a freaking red hot poker right now. It's like, I'm not going to touch him. I'll take my chances with Mike. Until you have somebody, and Moniak has done a nice job. And I know I poked at Aaron Boone a little bit a couple of weeks ago, but Moniak, for the most part, as good a season he's having, it's like, I'll still take my chances with Moniak because it just seems like everything that Shohei does right now is just like ridiculous. Everything that he does is ridiculous.
But to your earlier point, and that's why I guessed that you're going to go with the 4-seam fastball. He threw that at a 60% clip against the Tigers when he threw his complete game, shutout. One hitter, mind you, which was an 0-2 fastball for whatever reason, right down the frickin' middle.
Yeah.
But regardless, he threw his 4-seam fastball. And we talked about this, Victor. It's like, throw the fastball. You have a good fastball.
It's got a great fastball.
I think Reed Detmer's numbers. These
sweepers, and one more time for the hearing impaired, sweeper.
The tired sweeper. I think Reed Detmer's numbers over the last several starts compared to the early part of the game, early part of the season, have gotten a little bit better because the percentage of his fastballs thrown has gone up.
Right.
I still think, even at the major league level, regardless of what anybody says and how good your breaking ball is, everything lives off the fastball. And really, fastball and or first pitch strikes. I think you got to get ahead at the major league level. And I think that's, maybe I'm old-fashioned in that regard, but I think the numbers kind of play that out. It really does. I mean, for Shohei, I don't know what the fascination has been this year with that breaking ball.
That could have come from the top, Victor. Like, hey, let's throw this pitch more.
There's no doubt. Yeah, and usually the guys saying that let's throw this pitch more have never thrown a pitch in their life and never been in a situation to do that kind of stuff. So It's one thing to say, here are the numbers that bear things out. Take a look at them. You might be better off doing this, but to mandate something or, until you know what it's like to have a barrel pointed at you, you shouldn't be talking about how to kind of react to that barrel being pointed at you. So those are my 2 cents, guys.
Hey guys, we got to get to the mailbag. Because these guys are killing us.
All right. Mailbag questions. We'll start off with
because we don't talk enough to answer these questions. Come on.
And by the way, I think we've hit on a number of these. So
that's my point. Thank you,
Aaron from Hesperia. I think we hit on yours. Let's go to Noah in Mission Viejo. He says, let's say the Halos win the next 4 out of the next 6. Do you then believe in this team? And no, I feel like you're insinuating that we don't believe in this team right now. If they win 4 out of the next 6, coming up here.
When did that question come in? Because they've lost 2 or 3.
Yeah, it's been a minute. Okay, let's go to another one. Let's go to Dave. Dave from New Zealand.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that 12 USA beating of New Zealand 43-1. Sorry, did you guys see that? Team USA.
I didn't think that was
12U beat New Zealand 43 or 46-1.
And Victor, I thought that wasn't real.
I'm sitting there going like, and people are like, oh wow, New Zealand got 1. How'd you let New Zealand get 1? I'm like, how in God's name did you ever allow a game get to that point where you're embarrassing someone on the field like
that?
Yeah.
No mercy rule.
That's brutal. That's awful. Sorry, go ahead. New Zealand. Sorry.
No, I just read it through. We've answered that one as well. Rob from Long Beach.
Sorry, New Zealand.
Yeah, sorry, New Zealand. We're back to let's fucking go. So we're there. Let's see. Rob from Long Beach wants to know, what are your thoughts on the performance of Mike Frostand? I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And the sports medicine team in general for the Angels. So it's been a rough year for injuries for the Angels as a team. You guys have any thoughts on the preparation of the team and making sure that they're ready and doing what needs to be done to avoid injuries?
The only thing I'll say about that is if you're talking about injuries that are cramping, hamstrings, things of that ilk, and then there's an overabundance of them. Okay, maybe. But when you're talking about Urshela's got a hip injury, right? Mm-hmm. Rendon fouled a ball off his shin. Trout broke his hamate bone. Taylor Ward took a fastball to his face. Joe Adell's got an oblique injury. Obliques can happen, and those things are. I don't know that you can do all the core work in the world. It doesn't mean you're not going to, pop an oblique. So I don't know. I just think that it's hard to, and I think they've changed over. Gosh, this is my 3rd season away from the team. I think they've changed over a couple of times, right? Or been more additions and subtractions back and forth since I've been there. So, I think freak injuries. I'm trying to think of everybody else on the injured list of what happened. The Suarez thing to me.
Who isn't on the injured list?
Yeah,
right.
But that's my 2 cents on it.
The Angels lead the league in the amount of players on the injured list right now, by far.
Yeah,
so, 17.
Well, when you have the Iron Man Anthony Rendon on the team, you're always going to be in the lead in that category. All right, one more. This is an interesting one. I love with the trades that we just made for new pitching. And not trading Ohtani. By the way, this comes from Rich in Las Vegas. if the Angels win the World Series, fingers crossed, Rich, but lose Ohtani in the offseason to free agency, was it worth it?
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely.
100%.
Absolutely.
And I'll go a step further. If they make the playoffs and they make a statement in the playoffs and don't make the World Series, it was worth it.
Yep.
Yeah.
If you've got a chance to win a championship, you go all in. And if you cash it on that and you have a couple of bad seasons or a handful of bad seasons afterward, that's the price you pay. But you got the ring.
I'm sorry, Jeff. I mean, Shohei Ohtani's not stupid. He knows that these key players on this team that they need are injured. And if they were healthy, where would they be, right? He's not looking at all the data and like, gosh, I don't know, every year it's the same shit. This year, they put all the pieces to the puzzle together, and it just didn't happen because of multiple injuries. They lead the league in the amount of players on the IL.
Reality check. That is true as of July 30th, okay? But the inconsistency of this team when they had players that were healthy and playing in the lineup certainly has put the team in this situation.
And Victor, how can they
sorry
fix
to
that?
be the realist in this.
No. And I like that. But what can they do to fix that in a quick little summary? Because
they better play better when they get back. When everybody comes back, if and when they come back, I mean, because we just don't know. We keep hearing, Hoppy is doing this and Drury is doing that, yet we don't see any movement, right? Trout, maybe this. Until they get back in the lineup, it's a moot point. So there's no point in talking about the what ifs, the hypotheticals, because that's all they are is hypotheticals. You have to wait till these guys are actually back in the lineup. I said this, I don't know, a couple episodes ago about Hoppy. He's like, you don't know what you're going to get.
Right.
It'd be great that he's back. I mean, it'd certainly be an upgrade over Wallach right now. But, like, is he going to go back to hitting what the start of his season? I don't know. Maybe. You hope. But that's the problem. Is like you continuously hope. You hope Trout gets back and hope that he plays better than he was playing earlier this year, right? You hope Drury comes back and is able to contribute. You hope. So when you're consistently talking about all of these guys, it's like you hope. You hope not only do they get back and can contribute, but have to contribute at a much better pace than they were contributing before. Because before, when they were contributing at that medium, right, level, you were basically a 500 team. So everybody has to step up. Giolito's got to step up. Anderson has to pitch better. Anderson actually pitched pretty well on Sunday.
He pitched amazing today.
So, with a pretty decent lineup in there. So all of these guys have to continue to play out over their skis, if you will, in comparison to what they have been doing this year, in order for things to, when you get those guys back from injury, to carry some of that momentum going forward. At least that's how I look at it. I mean, that's just being as frank and honest and, using my head, including my heart, but being as honest as possible as I can be.
Yep.
Is that fair?
We've got 2 months. 2 months to make a run to make it happen.
Yep.
2 changes that I'd like to see happen if the Angels are not able to trade for who I brought up earlier, Randal Grichuk. Bring up Jordan Adams, Angels' first-round draft pick a few years ago. Age 23, 13 home runs, 36 stolen bases, 352 on-base percentage, plays at a phenomenal defense in the outfield, wherever you put him. And then and then get rid of Cabbage, and then bring up
you
Fletcher.
loved Cabbage a month ago, brother.
Hey,
now you're like tossing him out like yesterday's trash. Like the cabbage has gotten sour or something. It's bad cabbage.
It's like kimchi. It stinks after a while. Listen. Fletcher for Velasquez. Bring him up to it. Velasquez is only a stolen base guy. Plays good defense. Fletcher plays good defense. Fletcher's hitting almost 380 in AAA. I know it's AAA, whatever, but Fletcher's a proven major leaguer. Velasquez, get out of here.
That's it? That's how you're going to end it? Velasquez, get out of here. I love it.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Oh my God, guys! Another fantastic.
We're not editing on that, are we?
Yeah, we are. Episode 14 is now in the books. For Chuck Richter and Geoff Stoddart, I'm Victor Rojas. Thank you for listening. Make sure to tell your friends, and because it's going to be a fun next couple of months. Hopefully, we'll see what the Angels do in Atlanta on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday before they head back home. Because Shohei is starting on Thursday, if I'm not mistaken, when the Angels return back to Southern California. For the guys, I'm Victor Rojas saying thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next week.